So here we are again. Thank you very much. We have Aurélie PONS now with us. Aurélie, she's a web and design mentor, and she's going to give you a lot of knowledge regarding graphic design and even apply to social media. So Aurélie, I'm just gonna shut up now, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, everybody, to be here first and to have me today. I'm really happy to share my knowledge with you, and I hope that you will learn a lot of things. This is my first cooperation with you, so I really hope you'll enjoy the workshop. I'm going to share my screen right now. Here. Okay, do you see it? Great. So now I'm launching that presentation. Okay. So do you see the presentation slide? Yes, yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just removing a bit my Zoom screen here and here. Okay, so let's start with this graphic design workshop. First of all, I'm going to present myself so you know a little bit who I am. I'm Aurélie PONS, and I'm French. I'm from Marseille, south of France. And well, fun fact, I had to change my artist name, let's say, to Aurélie with a Y, because the famous actress in France, she's blonde, and but we don't do the same job, so I had to change my name. And now I live in Spain, in Valencia, so my computer is also Mediterranean, but I hope it will work for today. Spanish people used to call me Aure because it's sometimes complicated to pronounce. So Aurélie with a Y, with I, or with Aure. And I've studied marketing and design. I'm also the author. I've written a book about professional reconversion and digital nomadism. It's actually it's in French. And I started a freelance life as a web designer. And now I'm trainer in design, and I'm specialized in WordPress and web design. And as a fun fact also, I'm proud to be the next WordPress WordCamp leader during Valencia World Capital of Design in 2022. So maybe if you visit Valencia next year to see the World Design Capital, I will be happy to see you here in Valencia. So let's start with a little preview of how design can help you communicate. This is a short inspirational video. I hope you will enjoy it, and I hope you will hear it. Okay, so this little video to wake up also, and to have fun, and also to tell you that design is visual communication, specifically nowadays with the extended use of digital media. People's attention is very distracted. So if you want people to hear you, it's necessary to get the most of design to catch their attention, to make sure your message is spread in a few seconds. Through this workshop, you will be able to understand and use the graphic principles to improve your impact, the impact of your communication. So we'll dive into 4 main modules. The first module is about typography. Then we will see how to deal with colors, which is very important, as you saw in the video. And then we'll talk about composition, and last we'll have an intro to social media and web design. Okay, so let's start with typography, and let's talk about font types. So some of you may have heard about serif or sans serif font. So a serif font, let's say, for example, DM serif display font, is usually used in lengthy text such as books, newspapers, magazines. And this is the most commonly used printed type style. Sorry. So the serif is this small extra stroke found at the end of the main vertical and horizontal strokes of some letters, as opposed to a sans serif font, like, for example, Montserrat, that comes without those strokes. The sans serif fonts are mostly used in digital context and expresses like modern and neutral style. Then you have the script style, like, for example, dancing script fonts. This is like handwritten fonts, and it's mostly used for personal emotions. And finally, we have the display typefaces that will often have more like eccentric and variable designs than the simple fonts for body text. And display fonts are designed to convey a specific feeling. They are very original, they have character. Regardless of what the words say, the appearance of the font gives a certain mood and feel, which can alter the effectiveness of your document. That's why it's important to choose the font regarding what we are going to write. So, for example, a script font is not the perfect choice to write words such as pollution, which is a negative word, whereas it seems to express better feelings like, for example, summer vibes. And the same for words like related to news, it's better to use serif font. Or in digital context, it's better to use sans serif font. So, for example, we can see here this real example from Black Sea Basin CBC. They really used well the script font for the word summer ready, that is, because it expresses a positive feeling. So this is a good choice to use this script font. When we use two different when we use two different fonts, it's also important to make sure that they are harmonious together. So in general, if you want to use display or script fonts, it's recommended to use it for short titles with few words. And it's interesting to pair it with a sans serif font for the paragraph. You can also check the font compatibility together on the website fontpair.co. It's a very good resource to help you pair the fonts. They give you like nice font pairing recommendations you can use in your posts. Now we are going to practice you are going to practice. So I hope you are in good shape. All along this workshop, we are going to practice to improve step-by-step design artwork. So this one. So here is the original design, and we are going to improve it to get a better results. So I'm going to share you in the chat a link to download the PowerPoint file or a Keynote file for those who use Mac. So please open the PowerPoint or the Keynote and keep the file open, as we are going to come back to practice all along the presentation. So I'm going to open the chat, and here you have the Dropbox link. So you just have to click on the link and download the files. So I'm going to wait a little bit so you can do it. Laura, does it work?
It does for me, yes.
Great. Even with Mediterranean computers. It takes time to wake up, but when we're up, we're done. We're fine.
Two files, right? As you said, the PPT for me, for instance, and then the Keynote for the people who have an Apple or.
Exactly.
Okay.
So depending on what you use PowerPoint or Keynote, open the .pptx for PowerPoint and .key for Keynote. So I'm going to follow. Yeah. Okay. So let's continue and let's start the practice. So you see in this PowerPoint file that we have like non-very beautiful artwork, and we are going to improve it step by step. So the first step is going to be about typography, as we just talked about. So we see that the typography used is a serif typography, and we're going to improve the choice of the font of this design. So on the first step, let's open the slide and go on the slide step 1, the practice slide. So you just can select the element and please change the font, the typography, to a sans serif font, the one you prefer. So I give you 2 minutes.
Yeah, this should be fast, right? This should be simple.
Yeah. So let's start. And even if you do it, you can try different fonts also. Okay, a few seconds, and that's it. So in my example, I proposed Montserrat font, which is a sans serif font and very modern and neutral. So here is the example. let's continue our journey into the design typography, and let's talk now about variations. You have to know that with just one font, we can play with a lot of variations. That's why it's not necessary to choose more than 2 fonts for your composition. Even with just one font, we can play with font size, with font style like italics, underlines, caps. We can play with the color, with the weight of the typography, and also with letter spacing. So you have a lot of variations you can play with. So you will see here an example of font variations. On the left, we have 3 different fonts, one for the title, a different one for the headline, another one for the body text. And as you can see, the result is not very harmonious. In the meanwhile, on the right, we have used the same font family, which is Montserrat, and we only played with variations of the same font. I've just changed the size of the font, and now I've also added weight variations, and we can see that we have created a clear distinction between title, headline, and body text, but just using the same family font. So now let's come back to the practice and see how we can apply the font variation to our design. In this step, you are asked to play only with the font variation. So we want to emphasize first, the most important text is goes into you. Then the second most important text is what goes into the ocean. So yeah, you can play with all the font variations you want, such as size, style, color, weight, etc. To emphasize, so the first is goes into you, and then what goes into the ocean. So I give you here. Well, I try to change here. So I give you 2 minutes from now.
What goes into you and what goes into the ocean as well?
Yes, both of them. We want goes into you to be very important, and we also want what goes into the ocean to be important. But the most important is goes into you. We can see that this is an artwork to communicate about pollution. And we can see the image of a sushi roll, but with garbage. And the message is stop plastic pollution now, is the action. We see the logo of the company, like Surfrider Foundation. And we see the title, which is divided into 2 parts, is what goes into the ocean, goes into you, is the most important part. So as a proposal here, I've just played with size and style of goes into you. I've made it bold because it's the most important block. So I've put a bigger weight and I've transformed into capitals. Then I also put what goes into the ocean in capitals to emphasize it, but I stay smaller than goes into you to respect the priority. Now I'm going to present you the characteristics of the typography. It's important to take into account 3 parameters when you choose a typography. First is the readability, the legibility, and the hierarchy that creates visual order. So you can see here, the readability is how easy is to read and understand a written text. So a higher readability eases reading efforts and speed for any reader. On the top, we can see here that it takes time for us to read the sentence because of word spacing and some weird alignment. The font is legible, but we can distinguish because, well, it's legible because we can distinguish every letter, but you can see that the reading is not flowing. Whereas on the bottom, the text is readable, but the font choice makes it difficult to identify every letter, so the font is not very legible. So here is an example of lack of legibility. We see that the font choice was not the best for this word because it's not obvious if we have to share or to shave great experiences. So that's why it's very, very important to check both of readability and legibility. Another parameter we have to take into account is the visual order. We used to read from left to right and from top to bottom, but depending on how we use the typography, we can help the reader with visual order and hierarchy. So here we naturally read the title first, then the headline, then the third block, and lastly, the other block on the top. So this is very important here. An example. Now, what do we read? The reader, we see that here our eye is a bit confused. No, for me, it's like, wow, it disturbs me because the artist didn't take into account the visual order and forces the eye to read in a non-natural way. So talking about that, we are going to go back to the practice and we are going to improve the readability of the text. What goes into the ocean goes into you. So to do so, remember to check the space between words and align the text. So as you used to practice now, I give you 2 minutes. Okay. So here, for example, I've just corrected the spaces between words, and with a simple alignment, I've improved the readability of the text. Okay, so now we are going to talk about the design of blocks of text, such as paragraphs of text and body text of your compositions. So first of all, let's talk about alignment. I don't recommend you to center align the text, especially for paragraphs. If you see here, the reading line of the eye is a bit chaotic. Just only use center line for titles or in ceremony context or invitations. But for normal text, just simply align on the left. As you can see, the reading line is easier to follow for the eye, especially for the screen. The eye has a fixed reference on the left, and it's easier to read until the end of the line, and then find the reference of the following reading line. So you will notice that sometimes we use justified alignment, This is more for text on paper support, such as magazines for the aesthetics. There are certain aesthetic uses, but it can impact the readability in large blocks of text because of the uneven spacing and broken visual rhythm of the words. So if you design for screens and specifically big paragraphs, it's better to stay aligned on the left and not justify. Another important point is also the line width. Still to be reading friendly, let's say, we have to understand the movement of the eye. So that's why here there are like 3 words per line of block. And if I see here how I read, I force the eye to go down many times. So here is the reading line, and we see a lot of zigzags. And on the other hand, here, in a too long line of text, the eye path is not great neither, because the eye has to stay long in the same line until the reader even has to turn his head to keep reading until the end of the line. So it's not really reading friendly. So in this example, we have 30 words words per line. So just take into account that 30 words is too long in a one single line. So the perfect line width is around 12 to 14 words. Sorry. 12 to 14 words per line. So here we can see that the reading path is acceptable. Another good tip when you have to write a long paragraph is to use contrast for some words. See here. This will help the reader to scan the important information, and the paragraph appears to be less like a big block. So let's go back to our practice again. And now create some visual hierarchy between elements. So now I ask you to move, reposition, resize all the elements, such as the text, the image, the logo, in order to focus on the sushi image, because the sushi is our main important element. It's the image, and it's a very interesting idea to use like something we eat but done with garbage, to talk about the pollution of the ocean. So the sushi is our main important element. And we also emphasize the slogan, what goes into the ocean goes into you. And then stop plastic pollution now is another important but less important part. And finally, the logo, that is the less important element. So yes, replace, change them, resize, and redimension, reposition, move the elements to have this order. So I want the sushi to be the first principal element. Then I want the slogan, what goes into the ocean goes into you. And then I want stop pollution, plastic pollution now. And lastly, the logo. So I give you 2 minutes and we're back. Okay, almost done. Okay. So here is the proposition I've made. So the idea was to emphasize the sushi. That's why I've also made it a bit bigger. And to respect the natural reading path, I've started with the text, what goes into the ocean, and I've let it aligned on the left with goes into you. And I've then put the text, stop plastic pollution now, for the reader to keep reading. And last, in the bottom, I've put the logo, which is not part of the main message. It's important, but it's not the main message of this communication. Okay, so now let's see what are the trends and recap some tips about typography. So to help you choose a typography, because there's a lot of typography, I recommend you to visit Google Fonts website, where you can find hundreds of free fonts you can download and install on your computer, and you can use it for your design or artworks. Here you'll find a list of the most used fonts, especially in the web and digital context. So, for example, yeah, you have Robotus Lab, Montserrat, Poppins, Open Sans, Lato, etc., etc. I will share the slides, so don't worry, you will have the list of the typography. So to recap and remind some of the important tips in typography, first, only select maximum 2 different fonts for your design artworks, and just play with font variations. 3, make sure you offer good legibility and readability for your readers. 4, align on the left most of the time, especially on screen. Don't write more than 14 words per line. And finally, use Google Font website to download fonts and take some inspiration for font pairing on fontpair.co. Okay, so we have seen some how typography is important for design. And now we are going to see another important element, which is the color. Okay, first we're going to explore the meaning and the psychology of colors. Color are important for aesthetics, but also for functionality. Colors have meanings in our subconscious. We tend to link colors with kind of messages, such as information, or something related with action or validation, or important or dangerous messages, right? For example, we are naturally conditioned by color. So, for example, the use of green and red in button is really important. Here, it really disturbs to see delete in green and validate in red. It sounds like the colors of the button doesn't match with the text, no, with what it's saying. So it creates like a doubt in our reader's mind. I'm not sure your reader will click on the red button to validate without having like a few seconds of doubt. So here, we feel safer to click and validate in the red button, right? Psychology of colors is not an exact science, and everyone is free to select colors, but this represents the general association of colors in people's mind in this slide. So the same, you will have this slide at your disposal for to read it with more attention the day you want to select a color. You have to know that the psychology of colors also depends on the culture. In the Western culture, this guide is a good guide for colors you can use, and you can be free also to research in Google psychology of colors or meaning of and the name of the color you want to use to make sure that you're doing a good choice. In this part, I'm going to expose you how colors are technically represented. Many scientists have published studies about various theories of colors. In our case, it's not necessary to memorize and to know it all, but it's important just to understand how it works when you want to use any tool that works with the color selectors. So you have to know that all along the history, the theorists have tried to create color representation using wheels. So here we see a flat wheel with all the variations of colors. Then, if we represent it in 3D, we can observe that the rotation around the circle represents the different hues. So the hue is the name for color. And from the outside to the center of the wheel, we have the saturation of a given hue. And when we go deep in the 3D cone, we are playing with the luminosity of the same hue. So that's why a color is declined into 3 components: the hue, which is the color, its saturation, and its luminosity or brightness. Okay, and from this color wheel, we have been able to create color schemes. So the same, it's not necessary to memorize all of them, but it's important for you to know that it exists when you want to create a color palette, for example. So, for example, based on the wheel, we can select analogous scheme, which are the hues on the side of a principal color, like here. Then we have the monochromatic scheme, which is the variation of brightness of the same hue, like here. And we have the triad, which is the wheel divided into 3. And we have the complementary colors that are the opposite colors. So it's like mathematics, thanks to the color wheel representation. And talking about complementary colors, it's not recommended to use a background of a complementary color with the text. So you see, it creates like a strain. It's like a vision persistence for the eye, and it's not very aesthetics. The persistence of vision is this optical illusion where our eye perceives the continued presence of an image, like a ghost image, after you look somewhere, something else. So after the image disappeared from the view, you still see like a ghost of the image. So when you want to use a colored background, try to use black text or white text. And also try to use a darker background with less brightness to avoid this optical illusion. For example, here, a good practice is also using a monochromatic scheme for the background and the text color. So for example, Interreg Lietuva Polska did it very well with the title of its post, playing with monochromatic color palette. It's also very important to respect the vision with a good mix of colors. So let's take this palette using 2 complementary colors, the red and the green. If I create a green button and I write a text in red, maybe most of us can read it. It's not very beautiful, but we can read it. But let's see the same palette with the vision of someone suffering from color blindness. He or she will see those colors like this. So for the same button I've designed above, they will see like this, and it's impossible for them to read the text. So if you don't want to take risk, you can use the same green background, it's okay. But as I told you before, if you write the text in white, it works. In black, they can read it, or with the monochromatic color using the same hue, but play with the brightness of the same hue. So everybody can read it. Here is a very interesting infographics about design accessibility. So the government has released some of these infographics to design for accessibility. So I let you the link in the slide so you can consult all the details and recommendation you could take into account in your next designs to design for accessibility. Okay, so now let's go back to our practice and let's improve the colors now. In this step, only change this unfriendly blue background. You can try to change the background for a light or even try white background. So the same, I let you 2 minutes. Okay. So in my proposal, I've just quitted the background to stay with a clean white background. So the eye is focused on the content, which is the message and the image. Now we have seen how color is graphically represented to create scheme. We are going to see different ways to express a specific color. Every color has its own unique code to make sure to maintain the same exact things. So every color has its own ID, let's say, and depending on where you use the color, what kind of graphic design you do, you can use a system code or another. We have, for example, CMWK, RGB, hexadecimal, or Pantone codes. And it's important to use the right code in the right context. So in print design, we use CMWK. This is the acronym for cyan, magenta, yellow, and key, which is black, that describes the mix of inks to get a color. When we sum 100% of all cyan, magenta, and yellow inks, we get black. We can also use the Pantone code, that is a specific system developed by Pantone company, that this company creates its own tints. And for screen, you can use RGB code, which is based on lights and not on inks. R is for red, G is for green, and B is for blue. And the sum of the 3 basic colors is white. And in digital context, we can also use the hexadecimal code, which starts with a hashtag and is composed with letters and numbers. So it's important to know it because in many websites and color palettes, you will see this kind of color code. A good tip is to repeat one of the accent color of the picture you use in your design artwork and affect it to your text. So you can also create like this a kind of repetition of this color. So I'm going to, normally you have an image in the sushi image in the files also, a JPEG file in the Dropbox link. So you can go and visit the website I've shared with you here, https colors.adobe.com/create/image. So this is a good website to upload an image and get the color palette of this image. So we're going to practice and we are going to try to use one of the colors of the image in our design project. For example, we can see that the blue is used in the picture of the sushi and can be a great accent color to repeat in our text color. So if you want to catch the exact same blue, just use this tool on this website. Let's say, yeah, this is a website, but it's a tool to detect the color scheme of the picture. So I invite you to visit this website and upload the picture of the sushi, and you will be able to get the exact code of the color. So I let you here 2 minutes to do so.
I think this is one of the best tools. I'm often looking for the colors in the and when I find a nice illustration for something and I really love a color, I try to find what it is. So I use the sample tool from PowerPoint. They've upgraded it a little bit, but you cannot always find the exact shade. And this example, I really like the blue. I would save it and would use it for something in the future.
Yeah, it's a very interesting tool, and I mean there's a lot of tools like this. I just share one because it's this tool works well. You also have like Google Chrome extensions that allows you to pick colors. Yeah, but you have to install it first in your Google Chrome navigation browser. But when you have it installed, you can activate it in any website. You can use it.
Can you put this link in the chat because I cannot copy it from here?
Oh yeah, for sure.
I'll just bookmark it. I like this option. Thanks.
So I'm going to repeat it here. Okay. HTTPS color.adobe create image. Okay. Here you have it.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So let's continue. You see that thanks to this tool, we detect 5 main colors. We see that the color code is hexadecimal, as I told you. That's why it's important to know it. Starting with the hashtag, and we are going to take note of this blue color to use it again. Now it's time to recap and remind some good tips for colors. So first of all, let's remind that sometimes you'll already have a color scheme provided by your professional design and even templates. So make sure you respect it before adding your own colors and designs. So the first recommendation is to use one accent color you want to use to emphasize some elements. Second recommendation is to stay with a monochromatic palette and the accent color. You can use hexadecimal code for digital design. Be careful also with color pairing and avoid using complementary palettes to mix 2 elements together. So for example, avoid using complementary colors for text and background colors or buttons. If you want inspiration to create your palette, you can use coolors.co website that will provide you also beautiful palettes. So the same, you will have the slide and you can check later on. And finally, note that in print design, we can use black for text color, but if you design for screens, it's recommended to avoid 100% black. It's better to use a darker gray it's just to ease the vision of the reader, because pure black on screen is proof that tends to strain the eye. So let's know more about composition design in general. And let's start with the visuals. So it's important to know that there's different, it exists different image formats. So we have the bitmap images that are composed with points, pixels. It's the case for pictures, photographies. But the same picture can be like this, and like this. And we think that the second and the third are the same, but if I add a colored background, I realize that not exactly. The first picture has a squared frame, and I see that the second one also, it's just that there's a white space. And on the other hand, I see that this image, the same image on the right has like a cropped border. So this last image has a transparent background. And that is the difference between JPEG files, let's say with squared frame, and PNG files that are files with no background. Another type of visuals are vectors. Those visuals are not composed by pixels or points, but they are composed with digital lines and they appear like digital drawings. This is the case for illustrations and icons. So the format is also PNG because they have a transparent background. And for icons, we can also use SVG format when we use it for websites. And talking about visuals, it's important to use the same style and collection if you want to use various visuals in your composition. If you start using pictures, keep on using pictures and only pictures and don't mix with icons or illustrations for the same elements. And when you use illustrations or icons, make sure to pick it from the same collection. So here, for example, is a good example. We have used the same kind of icons. Here also, good job. Same kind of illustrations. And here also, we have exactly the same collection of icons. Okay, so now imagine that you have a great visual you want to integrate in your composition, but that this element has a background you want to remove to integrate it better in your composition. Or also imagine that you have to integrate a logo in your composition, but you only have the version of the logo with a black or white background. So most of the time, it's better to remove the background of your composition elements to get a better integration. So you could use professional tools such as Photoshop, etc. But I don't know if you knew that you can also directly use your presentation tool, such as Keynote for Mac or PowerPoint, to remove the background. So here are the simple steps to follow on Keynote. So you see that it's just like 2 buttons to click. And you will have also the video for Keynote users. And here is the video tutorial for PowerPoint. So as you can see, it's very easy to obtain to remove the background. So let's see how we can do it in less than 1 minute in PowerPoint.
So at the top, do make sure that you have your image selected. So we need to click on the image first. We will have a number of additional features. And one of those features is remove background. So here on the left-hand side, you will see remove background. If you do not see this option, make sure you have your image selected. So we're going to click on that image and then remove background. This will now give you a suggested removal. So it looks at the image, it suggests different parts of the image to be removed. And if you want to tweak these, then you can tweak it now before they are removed. So here you can see you can mark additional areas to keep or areas to remove. Now I'm going to leave it as it is, and I'm going to click on Keep Changes. So as soon as you click on that button, we now have our puppies. The background has been removed.
And that's it. So I hope you enjoyed this tip, and maybe you didn't know about it. So let's continue. And now you are going to try to remove the background of the sushi image that we see. The sushi image has a black background. So let's practice on our design artwork and quit the background of the sushi. So you can open the slide 6B. And you have 2 minutes to remove it. Okay, so I hope you could do it, and now you obtain these same results. Let's continue and also talk about the visual. It's very important to select the right visual for your composition. Keep in mind that we catch the reader's attention with the visual first. So it's important to select a high impacting visual. Avoid visuals that bluntly illustrates all the words you want to share. Like here on the left, for example, to express the word travel, it was not necessary to use an illustration showing all the components of travel, such as an airplane, earth, pins, luggage, etc. This visual is very descriptive, but it doesn't create any emotional connection, and that's not really impacting at the end. Whereas here on the right, the picture is also related to travel, but with just the representation of this toy van, it just suggests. So keep in mind, it's better to suggest than to show off. Pay also attention to the quality of the image and try to avoid pixelated visuals and do not deform it. Make sure to respect the proportions of the image and just crop the image if needed, but never change its proportions. So it's also important to respect the quality of the image itself, always. So here we have some good examples from your social media post creations, because I visited all of your social media pages. Well, maybe I think, yes, all of them. And I found very interesting examples. So here, for example, Interreg España, Portugal have used an interesting visual. Here also. Here also. Here also, and here also. Very funny. I really like this one. So when you want to use an image as a background also, make sure the text is readable. Here we have a beautiful image background, but the text is not easy to read. But if we apply a layer with some transparency, then we can read the text. And for example, with 0% of opacity watermark, it's even better and creates like a collage effect. So that allows us to perfectly see the image and read the text at the time. So here are some examples of your compositions using image as a background. Here, Interreg Greece Italy has cleverly positioned the text in the sky zone of the picture. So they use this part of the picture as if it were a flat color, flat blue background. Whereas here, NECBC Med and Interreg POCTEFA use the technique of the transparent background superposition, this layer, to make the text perfectly readable. And then we have Interreg, Regio Meuse-Rhin, and Europa Mayotte, who prefer to use the image and the text as a collage. So we can see the text and the image separately. So there's no problem to read the text and we can see the image at the time. Here is the list of some useful resources you want to use if you want to use free images or visuals for your compositions. The same, you will have the list of all those websites. So I really recommend you to visit these libraries of images. It's very high quality photographies. So you have Unsplash, Pexels, Pixabay, Flaticon for icons, and FreePic for all kinds of images. And you can also use one of those two websites, which are Pixlr or Canva. There are tools to create compositions, but you can also use PowerPoint or Keynote as we are doing right now. So you can create with those tools all kinds of graphic artworks, from social media posts to infographics or posters. Okay, so we have finished the visual part, and now we are going to talk about composition. And first, we are going to talk about, we are going to talk about composition elements. A composition is the sum of different elements. So an element is a block that has its own logic. So, for example, 3 lines of text that refers to the message or has the same goal like explaining something, it's one element. But in the same composition, the title can be considered as a separate element as it has its own goal. It's to present. So the text is to explain and the title is to present. So there are 2 different elements. Many elements can be used to create a composition. So we have titles, we have headlines, we have text layouts, we have images, we have icons, backgrounds, charts, buttons, call to action, etc., etc. But when you create a composition, I really recommend you to try to use the less elements you can to avoid this visual pollution for the reader. So I recommend you to ask yourself those 3 questions before adding an element. The first question, is this element useful? The second question, does this element help to understand faster the message? And the third question, does it help the reader to memorize your message? You can also try to remove the element you want to add. So you add it and just remove it and see if it's necessary or not. If removing the element doesn't affect the message you want to communicate, it means that it's not indispensable and you can remove it. Okay, so now a little exercise. Let's try to identify how many elements there are in this first visual. we are going to launch the poll. So Nebojsa, if you can launch the poll, thank you. So look
Just
at the video.
1 second, please.
Yeah, perfect. So in the meanwhile, I can.
Composition of elements, yes?
Yes, perfect.
Launching.
So here, look at the elements and see, tell me how many elements you can see in this composition.
I love this example, by the way. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, very beautiful.
It's because I made it. This is done in Canva, by the way.
Yeah.
I know, and I see okay, I see many elements, 7 at least. 1, 2, 3.
Okay, so
Me and Nebojsa, we are fans of Canva. We work a lot
Definitely.
with Canva, and we try to combine different elements, colors, and sometimes we are good, other times we are not so good, but it's a good start to make a design.
For sure.
that's why I'm here, to help you improve your designs. Canva is a great tool because they also offer templates. So just using templates, you can start with that and applying the design principles, and that's it. The most dangerous thing using templates and too easy tools at the end is too much. Is to integrate too much fonts, too much colors, too much. So that's why I'm here to tell you, in design, we used to say less is more. So the less elements, better. Okay, so
We
yeah.
have 54 out of 64 answers. Should I end poll and show the results?
So, well, it's yeah. For example, we have 2% of people saying that they see 2 elements, 13 3 elements, 26 4 elements, 31 5 elements, and 28 5 elements. So
I
we
see 7. Am I correct?
in
I
the
see 7.
And-
Nebojsa, you design it.
well, it can be discussed. I mean, it's just for you to understand, yes, the elements. So
If I allow me 20 seconds, is the picture, you have the big text, we support Earth Hour. The second text is the third. You have the interreg logo, fourth, designed by Nebojsa, and the blue and white.
So here, for example, if I see like the image very, if I reduce the image and I just see, don't read exactly, but I can see, in my case, I see 4 elements. The first is the background image. Then I see a title. Then I see a text. And then I see logos. So for me, it's 4 big elements. And obviously, then you can say, yeah, but I see a blue background, etc. But the elements, for example, if we haven't used the blue background for the text wouldn't be readable. So it's necessary, but it doesn't give a message. The message is the image, because there's, yeah, it's the representation, the title, the text, and the logo. Okay, let's try another one. So let's launch again the poll. So here, how many elements do you see? Okay, I think everybody answered. So, yes. Okay, so what do we have? We have most of you answered more than 5 or 5 elements. So here, exactly, I see a background color. I see an illustration. I see a title, let's celebrate. I see some information text, and I see the logos. I don't need to read exactly what it's in it, but visually I see 5 elements. And the same here. Here, for example, we can see a background color, an illustration, the title, which is more like a call to action, the register now. We can see text of information and logos. And a last example here, we can see a background image, an illustration, title, text for information, and logos. Okay, so now we know how to identify elements. Let's talk about one of the main principles of design. Its acronym is CRAP.
It's easy to remember.
Exactly. So CRAP is the acronym for contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. So contrast is the difference between 2 elements. Repetition is the fact that those elements are repeated. Alignment is the alignment of the element along the lines. And proximity is how close or distant are elements one together. So let's start with contrast. So as I told you, the contrast is the difference between 2 elements. So for example, I can play with shape to emphasize an element which is different from the other. So in this example, a circle in the middle of only squares. I can also use the size, the color, and also the typography variations, as we have seen before. We can play with different and contrasted font weight, for example. And yes, contrast is used to grab the attention of something. So obviously you have to contrast the thing you want to emphasize on. Here we are going to see that it's really important to take contrast into account. We can see that some design fails because of lack of contrast. So this is very important, that nothing is possible or impossible, because we can say that the I am first letter of impossible are written in a white zone, and it's written in white, so it's the contrast is not enough for us to be able to read. So we read nothing is possible. And here I really love this example. This is an evacuation plan. So good luck. I hope that nothing will happen in this office or hotel. So we see here that we have a real lack of contrast. Whereas here on the right, we have some good examples of contrast use. As our eye is directly focused on the number, for example, as there is an obvious size contrast in the text, and also a color between the background and the text color. So, and now let's talk about the second element of CRAP, which is repetition. repetition is the fact to repeat some elements to create a design consistency and harmony. And I would say it's one of the most important principles that makes the difference between amateur and professional design. So you can be a professional designer using this repetition concept. So you have to know that there are many elements you can repeat in your composition to generate this consistency feeling and professional design. You can repeat font as we have seen before. So that's why I told you just choose 1 or 2 fonts maximum. This is to respect the principle of repetition. You can also repeat the size, the colors, the shapes, style, patterns, textures, etc. Everything you can repeat in your composition, you should repeat it to create this consistency. It's really, really, really important. So if we analyze this example, we can see that many elements are repeated in these just 3 blocks. We have repeated here the font, its color, its size and weight between titles and body text. Then we have repeated the rounded shapes. We see that there are the border radius that create these rounded shapes of the button, the form fields, but also the background borders and even the borders of the social media icons. The button itself is repeated, so it's exactly the same shape, border, color, size, font, etc. And we also have the repetition in the color and the collection for the social media icons. Here, a good example from Interreg Dutchland, Denmark, that has done a good job using a very interesting tip. What they have done is that they have repeated some of the colors of the visuals in their text. And they have also created various posts using the same template all along the time. So this creates a series of posts in their social medias. So good job. Okay, let's go back to our practice to apply what we have seen before. 2 of the major concepts that are contrast and repetition. So I wanted to use those 2 principles to emphasize the text goes into you and also stop plastic pollution now, because it's the call to action, let's say. So you remember you can use colors, you can use background colors, you can use fonts, you can use any design principle we have seen before. So let's do it in 2 minutes. Remember also that we have cut the blue color of the sushi. So maybe you can use this blue color. Okay, 2 minutes are done. So here, I've just used the blue accent of the sushi to contrast the color of goes into you, because it's the most important message. And I also use the repetition principle with the color of the sushi. It's exactly the same color tone of the sushi inside the sushi. And as I want also to emphasize the warning text, I've also used the red background color, like it's something dangerous or it's like very important. So red is very eye-catching. So I've used the red background for the text, stop plastic pollution now. Okay, so let's continue with the third principle of CRAP. So the first were contrast and repetition. And now we are going to talk about alignment of elements along the lines. So here we have an example. If I draw the lines of every word, we see that nothing is aligned. So we see like lines full, the slide is full of lines. But if I do that, all the words are aligned all together on the same line on the left, or in the center, or on the right. So this works for text, but for everything. Here in the whole composition, we can see on the left a bad example. We see that nothing is aligned, so it makes it difficult for the eye to understand, to read. It creates like chaotic design. Whereas on the right, we see that everything seems to be in order, and this feeling is generated thanks to the good alignment of the elements together. Last principle is proximity. So proximity is how close or distant are the elements, with the one with the others. We see how the distance and the use of space, white space, can affect the interpretation of what belongs together, what words or what elements belongs together. So we see here that proximity doesn't belong to the same group as contrast, repetition, and alignment. But we can see that proximity and its definition, how close distant are elements, we have played with space, and we clearly see that proximity is how close and distant are elements. The same here. If I do this example, we see that space helps us to understand that contrast is a single word, repetition is also a single word, and alignment goes with proximity. If I do that, we also play with white space to create the proximity of elements. So now it's clear that contrast goes with repetition and alignment goes with proximity. And another way to play with proximity and space, also we see that contrast is separated, alignment is separated, and repetition and proximity are together. So we are going to launch a funny poll, let's say, because you will realize how important is the use of space and proximity. So I hope it will work. It depends on your answers. So Nebojsa, please launch the poll and ask people in this image. See, in this image, you want to go to deliveries. Would you turn right or would you turn left or you don't know? This is really, really interesting. And imagine you're in your car, you have like 1 second to decide.
Cars behind you are beeping, hurry up.
Yeah, like
They're pushing.
don't. Or maybe we know, I don't know, maybe we are all, we agree all together to go right or left or no. But I see the results and yeah, it's really, really funny. So 43% of you are going right, 31 are going left, and 26 stay here and don't know. So this may seem like yeah, like stupid, but yes, it's really, really, really important to respect and to take proximity into account. You see here a bad example of how we can badly use the space. So if we had put like deliveries very close to the one or the other side, it just yeah, it just resolves the problem. So this is really, really important, and I hope you understand now why exactly I'm referring and what I'm referring to. So let's go up here. So for another example, this composition is also complicated to interpret. So if here we see a lot of elements and it's not very clear, the space is the same, so we don't have any possibility to play with proximity. The eye just see a big block and that's it. So here in this example, if we play with proximity and space, we can see clearly the visual group of elements. They also played with a repetition of the visual collection. They also play with shape contrast and also alignment. So they have played with most of the design principles, and they have obtained a more effective infographics. So the one on at the left is the same infographic, but it's improved. So let's go back to our practice and let's reorganize and align the elements such as the logo, the text, and the image to create rhythm and visual order. So I give you 2 minutes the same to align, play with the organization of elements and proximity. And you have 2 minutes from now. Okay. So in the proposal, I've just lined all the text elements on the left. And I've also made the sushi bigger to be aligned with the text block. And I've also just moved the logo and I made it smaller, and that's it. So we can see now that our design is getting shape. Remember the first version of the design. So I would be really interested in seeing your designs also. So maybe at the end you can share if someone wants to share the screen and share the design. So here is yes what I've done. And also, if I go further in the design principles we have seen before and since the beginning, here playing with colors, playing with typography also, I've proposed this design. So, for example, the text is in gray and it's not in black. I've also used on purpose, goes into you. I've used a different typography to play with contrast also. And I've also used typography, let's say, personality. I've used like this textured typography that creates like, it reminds this garbage thing. And as we are talking about the pollution of the oceans, for example, and we are showing sushi with garbage. So this font can repeat the sensation of something that is not very, very clean. And I've also put the Stop Plastic Pollution Now on the image with the red background, so I can read the text. And I've rotated it a little bit to create like a sticker effect, like this, like, yeah. So we can see clearly what goes into the ocean goes into you. So it's a very strong message. And we see that what is going into you, it's what I'm eating, and I see the image then of what I'm eating, the sushi with the garbage, and on the garbage I then create this like logical reading line. So I start with what goes into the ocean goes into you, so in conclusion, stop plastic pollution now. So it's important to design, yes, but to take into account the content, the message, because design is really relationed with the message, the words. It's not just design for aesthetics, but designs also is here to help you spread a message. This is the most important thing. We are not artists. I mean, we're not here to be like a Picasso and inventing things. We are not artists. We are in the case of the use of design for a communication purpose. So that's why the message must be taken into account. And this is the most important thing. So.
One question. They're asking what's the graphic design program you used to create this graphic?
This one, I've used Keynote.
Like the PowerPoint for Mac?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. At the end, what is that? It's text. We can do text in PowerPoint. You can use Canva. You can use Pixlr. I use also Pixlr because it's online and I don't have to install it. So sometimes I use Pixlr. And in this example, I've created the slides, the practice slides you have on Keynote or PowerPoint. You can use it, and it's really easy. It depends on what you do, but for example, you can take the image of the sushi in one of the library, like Unsplash, for example. You go to Unsplash website, you look for this sushi photography. Well, I don't know if it's on Unsplash because it was a campaign, communication campaign, but you can take any image that that has like this feeling effect, emotional connection. You can integrate it in your presentation tool, PowerPoint, and it's just text at the end. Text, colors, and image. So that's why just design for people is like something complicated. No, make it simple. I'm here to help you to make it simple, but to reach professional results. These tips and tricks for this part to improve your composition. As I told you just now, first of all, don't supercharge your designs. So use 3 to 5 elements maximum to avoid like dispersion and something messy. Then use the crop and white space principles. And a good easy tip is to repeat the accent or main color of the visual in your text. 4, you can start your composition by inserting the most important element first in the composition. This is a good way to start your composition. So start with the most important. Is it the image? Is it the message? Is it part of the message? So start with that and compose around it. And for the selection of the visuals, pay a special attention to the visual you choose. So you can use the libraries I've shared with you. And finally, use white space to separate the elements. It's really, really, really important. We can analyze here a nice example of a design by Interreg España Portugal. It's not because I live in Spain, I just saw it. So I see that here they applied a lot of the principles of design we have seen. They have applied contrast between colors, between also size and typography. They have applied the repetition of the same colors or tone of colors, monochromatic colors. They have repeated the font also. They have respected a good alignment of text and visual. We see that everything is well aligned. They also played with proximity of information, because we can visually, even if we don't read exactly everything, we can see visually that there are some blocks, information blocks. So we can just like scan that there is a block for title, a block for the program, and a block for the logos, for example. They have made a good use of font variations with the weight and the color of the font. And they also used they have made a good use of white space to create order and hierarchy. So before diving into the last module, I would be glad if someone wants to share the screen and and share the presentation that they have done, the composition they have done. If anyone wants to share it. Don't be shy.
After seeing yours, I mean,
I can share it. After all, it's just an exercise.
Yeah.
I cannot share because while the other participants is sharing.
Hold on, Danny. Now you can.
Okay, allow me to. Okay, share screen. Yes.
Maybe I have to stop sharing, or no, or it works.
I don't know if it is working.
Yes,
Can
it
you
is.
see?
Okay, so I have to say.
What do you see?
For the moment, a black screen. But
There we go.
I don't know. Do you see my my image now?
yes,
Yes.
yes,
Sharing.
yes. So we see that okay, the sushi, yes, is bigger. It's also interesting. You have played with colors and yes, with the red also. Yeah, I see that you played with the red and with typography. So yes, yeah, that's
It's not the best. You are the designer, but anyway, I try to to do
Yeah.
something different than you.
Exactly. It's really interesting also. Do you want to explain us and details how you have done it? Why you did you use?
But yes, I tried. I tried to use the red for stop the plastic pollution. I changed stop now the plastic pollution. I don't know if but the word now made with black makes some difference, but now engage to act now. So stop the plastic pollution now. And I tried, I suppose that Surfinder Foundation, it's related with marine research or something like that. So I tried to mix the blue into the ocean with the logo of the foundation and the logo of the picture. And what goes into you goes into the ocean, or different. What goes into the ocean goes into you.
Yeah, this is really interesting. Yeah, and we see the alignment of what goes. So it creates the repetition. You have played with the repetition of the word also in your design. Yes, better.
Yeah, I know, but it was in 2 minutes. It's very hard to arrange it.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I let you a few times because
I'm not a natural English speaker, but what goes into ocean goes into you. Is it sounds better? What goes into ocean in general, and you avoid an extra word.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. This campaign, actually, this campaign exists really. So this is a real example. I've just deconstructed, destroyed. I destroyed the campaign so for us to do the exercise. And to be honest, it's really interesting playing with the now in black, because in the original campaign, they also played like you did with the now in black, because it's stop now. You have to act now. Now, really important. And they have played exactly like you did.
Thank you. So we have the same idea after all. Okay, thank you. Can I stop sharing? Pause?
Yeah, totally.
Okay, thank you.
So I'm going to follow here. Okay, so here and launch here. Okay. So we have seen that, we have seen that. And thanks again, Danny. You did a good job.
Thank you very much. Also, you've done a great job. I really appreciate your presentation.
Thank you. So the last module now is I'm going to introduce you to design for social media and web. Digital design, such as web design, is a whole universe, and it would be very interesting to investigate deeper. But we don't, unfortunately, we don't have so much time. But I wanted you to have a preview of what you can do, but also make sure that all we have seen until now is graphic design, but they have a common base between graphic design and web or digital design. So everything we have seen can apply as a base to your design when you design for digital media. So first of all, let's talk about sizes. It's really important to adapt the design size to the place you want to publish your design. For example, social media banners. Here on the left, we have a design problem that the social media platform includes a banner and a profile picture that hides part of the banner. So in this example on the left, instead of reading playoffs, the P is hidden by the profile picture position, and we read layoffs. So it's not the same meaning. So is it layoff or is it playoff? And on the right, for example, we see that Interreg Italia Svizzera has taken into account the social media specificities, and they have created a banner that we can clearly see. So good job, because even if the profile picture position would be bigger, the design of the banner includes a white space in the corners, so the text would never be hidden by the profile picture. So this is really important to take it into account. And you will ask me, okay, how? So how? Well, just checking first the size of the design you want to display. Here in this slide, I've included some common screen sizes and some examples of social media size requirements. But as the social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, etc., they used to change the template of their media most of the time, I recommend you to search on Google, for example, Facebook image size and the current year. So let's say 2021, 2022. And they will communicate you the exact size of the design you have to respect. So it's a matter of size, but it's also a matter of proportion. Because if you see, the banner is very landscape. So if you create a design which is like a squared proportion, the square won't fit into the space of the banner. So Facebook or Instagram or the social media platform will automatically crop or resize your design, and that's why it creates like the design fails we have seen just before. So it's very important to check the size before you start to design. If you use Canva, normally they offer you some templates for social media, so they already have the good size. Now we're going to see some tips for design in social media publications, such Instagram. Instagram is a very visual social platform, and you can also use in Facebook for some of the tips. In Instagram specifically, we can see that even the social media design can follow design principles. Like here we have applied the design principle, which is alignment. For example, in Instagram, you can play with grid layouts for your Instagram page and play with the order and the style of your posts. So we have here an example of a row by row grid style. You also have a diagonal style. We see that the publications in red point repeats in the diagonal line. We also have ties or line in the middle. So that creates, for those who use Instagram, that creates a very beautiful and eye-catching Instagram page.
So for Instagram, you should plan your posts in threes. And for example, if you want to make, when people open your Instagram profile, you want all your posts to sort of create a bigger picture, right? And if
you can create a big picture, this is another kind of publication. Like, yes, you create the picture, you divide it into 3 or 9, and you post 1 and 1 and 1 and 1. Yeah. But this is one. This is also another design grid. And those in this example, those examples in the slide, for example, this, there are different images. All are different images, but they have, for example, in the first example, they have published 3 images, 3 different images, but images. And then they have published 3 quotes, or it's not, I don't know if it's quotes or phrases or something, with the same background, the same typography, for sure, the same style, etc. And then again, they have published 3 images, 3 photos, and then maybe they will publish again 3 texts, and again 3 images, etc., etc. So it creates a row by row design. In the case of diagonal design, they have posted image, white background text, and this red bullet. And then to create that, they have thought and planned, as you said, yeah, they have planned what they are going to publish, the graphic idea of what they are going to publish to create this effect. So yes, if you do it, I mean, for example, the diagonal is a bit more complicated because you have to think about the diagonal, but an easy one is the row by row, because you know that it's 3, 3, 3, 3. So okay, it's always the 3, 3, and you can have, for example, 3 images of the same color scheme, or 3 images representing the same idea, or 3 same kind of publications, etc. So all the 3 have to have something in relation, and then you have to change. You have to change, because if you post a 4th image, it creates like this disturbing, you don't follow the repetition by row by row. So yes, it's important to think before. Then here also Instagram also has filters, and I really recommend you to follow the design principle, which is repetition, for filters. If you pick one filter, just stick to it. Don't change the filter every time you post something, because here you can easily apply the repetition principle, and it creates a very harmonious Instagram page. Then we are going to talk about post content. This is not exactly design, but let's say that when we are talking about social media, it's important to take into account the design, but also the posts you are going to publish. So the same, this is a whole universe. It's the universe of social media and web marketing. So there are like strategies, content strategies behind. But just to introduce you, I wanted to share with you some good ideas you can use for your social media posts. because it's very important that you keep your social media active. You have to be, if you start with using social media, you should post a wide variety of content to keep your audience engaged. It's not like posting to share your personal pictures. If you have a professional page, it's important to keep your audience engaged. So you can publish, for example, inspirational quotes. Then you can ask a question to your audience. You can share an interesting statistic. You can share a tip. You can share a day in the life. You can share a testimonial quote. You can share infographics, breaking news, take a poll, fun fact, comic, holiday post. Well, maybe in your case it's not, but for example, event posts. You can also recommend helpful tool or tip. You can also create a thank you post, a long story post, and for example, a behind the scenes photo. So it's important to keep your audience engaged with interesting content posts. So it's important to take design into account. And I know that I'm like going out a little bit of the topic, which is design, but it's really important to take it into account. So don't post always the same thing, or don't post something once 6 months. It's if you choose to be active on social media, it's really important that you respect the design of your social media page, but also the content, and to be very consistent. Consistency is the key for social media. If you want to be, if you want your social media to be effective, yes, it's important, the design, but also the content. Then I'm going to share you some tips and tricks for this social media intro. So as I told you, it's a little intro because I don't have, unfortunately, I don't have time for to develop all this topic, because it would be a whole range and new universe, let's say. Relation to design, but it's something very specific. But yes, it's important for me to that you know about social media, because I know that most of you use social media. So first recommendation is to check the social media images first, social media image size first. Then it's very, very important, as I told you, to be consistent in your post design. So for example, playing with the same filter, etc. For Instagram, it's a good practice to use these grids layouts. And for so the content, it's important to yes, to mix the post types. 5, oh, it doesn't appear, sorry. Yes. 5, limit the elements of design in your post. So try to think about that the post has to spread one message and not 2, 3, 4, because if you have various kind of message to communicate, just do various posts, but one post is one message. And limit the elements you include in your composition. And as an opening for another kind of design family, let's say, it's web design. So I opened the door to a next step in design, because we have seen the basics of design, and then depending on where you want to apply it, but web design is also a whole topic for a course, because designing for the web is very important nowadays, as internet is everywhere in our everyday life. So when people want information, they automatically use internet and consult websites or social media. That's why most of the organizations and companies have websites. And even if you don't create websites, it's important to understand how web design works, to be able to order a website, manage it, or work with web designers. So everything is linked: graphic design, social media design, web design. One of the best tool to create professional website is WordPress, and with its most advanced and easy to use tools, you'll be able to apply the design principles we have seen before. So yes, I'd be happy to show you, for those who are interested, how to create web pages or managing their websites. As I told you, here you can extend your design skills to apply to your web design artworks and create wonderful pages or landing pages or communication campaigns. Because it's also really important to take into account that you can use social media for your communication strategies, use social media to attract people, and then it's really important that when you have attracted people, you drive them to somewhere, which are landing pages. And landing pages is a special page, web page, that is focused on, for example, a campaign you want to communicate. So yes, you can create like these ones, etc. A lot of very graphically beautiful web compositions. And yes, and now to close, because I don't want to take too much time. So to close, I want to share with you another inspirational video, like a movie trailer, let's say, opening from design to web design. And I hope to see you soon for maybe a graphic design training like this one, or why not for a next training focused on web design and web pages creations. I will be very happy to share with you my knowledge. And feel free to reach me by email or phone if you're interested in any question. If you need feedback for your designs, it will be very interesting. Yes, and I'll be happy to stay in touch with you. You will receive the slides of this presentation and my contact. So I will send to Laura all the materials, so you have all the resources, etc. And I really hope you enjoyed this workshop. For my part, I was really happy to have this experience with you. And now I let you enjoy this trailer for web design.
Who runs the world? Girls, obviously. And what about the other world? The web, where you spend most of your time. That's us, the web creators. Regular-looking people with multi-layered skills on a special mission to create a pixel-perfect world. See her? That's Nina, top designer turned web creator. A responsive design hero first in microcopy, UX, UI. Still staring, man. Jamie, a full-stack web developer whose back-end skills and front-end passion makes him the usual suspect for building complex and beautiful websites. And that's Maurice, his less than trusted partner. And we're going under construction again. These guys, the trio. The trio, wanted for projects on 3 continents. These digital perfectionists are in the middle of a heated argument about the corner radius of a CTA button. That settles it. Elegantly done. See, we are everywhere. A global community of professionals, building businesses, running the web, and creating our future, one pixel at a time. That's one big ass finger. We are the web creators. We're on a mission, and we're coming to a website near you.
Okay, that's it for my part. And I really hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you very much, Aurélie. I love this one pixel at a time. Yeah, it's a very funny video. I liked very much personally the workshop, but as usual, we would like to get feedback from you because you never know if this was useful to you guys. Aurélie, you nailed it. You're great. Thank you very much for your time. So now the only thing we ask for you is please fill the evaluation survey so that we know if something was missing, what was missing, how we can improve in the future. As Aurélie said, we will send the presentations, the resources that she talked about, and also her contact, because that was super fast after the video. So I'm not sure they were able to get it, but yeah, we will share it. It's wow, 62 people still here, so I think that's a good sign. I think you liked it. I don't know if you have questions for Aurélie. Neville, would you like to add something?
I also really enjoyed the training. I knew a lot of stuff already, but I also learned new things, especially about the tools, and I really appreciated this hands-on approach where we step by step did one thing at a time with the grid, with the colors, how to remove the background, very practical things that I think people appreciated. So thank you, Aurélie, from my side as well. In terms of the meeting, I would just like to remind everyone that in the afternoon, we have the country team meeting organized by the European Commission. It starts at 2:30 Central Europe time, and most or all of you should have received an email invitation for this meeting already. It will be in Microsoft Teams software. In case you are not a member of the InformU network still, I'm going to post in the chat an email to which you should write to our colleagues, and they will immediately add you to the group, and then you will be able to join the meeting today from 2:30 until 4 p.m.
Okay, yeah, I just sorry, never for this blank. I copy pasted the evaluation link. Thank you very much again for still being here. Thank you, Aurélie. Once again, thank you, my Interreg colleagues for because this is a joint effort, as you always know. And yeah, we are at your disposal if you want to contact us, and if not, have a great day. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you all. Have a good
Bye.
day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Laura. Bye, Nebo. And
Thank
thank you, Aurélie.
Thank
Great,
you.
really
Bye.
good
Thank you.
presentation.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Dani.
Bye-bye.
Bye.